You have been living in the gray space for months, perhaps years, and you are beginning to suspect that the gray is not temporary. It is the architecture itself. You are not single, not exactly. You are not in a relationship, not really. You exist in the liminal territory that modern dating has branded with a cutesy portmanteau, as if naming the prison makes it habitable. He texts you at midnight with a familiarity that feels like intimacy, but he disappears for days without explanation and returns as if no time has passed. He shares his bed, his body, fragments of his history, but never his future. You have memorized the pattern of his absence and presence until it feels like rhythm, like love, like something you could build a life around, if only you tried harder, understood better, waited longer. But the body keeps score, even when the mind negotiates. Your sleep has become fragmented, your appetite unpredictable, your anxiety spiking at predictable intervals, 48 hours after his last message, 72 hours before his next appearance. You tell yourself this is the price of modern connection, that everyone is busy, that commitment is old-fashioned, that you are evolved enough to handle ambiguity. Yet something older and wiser in you recognizes this for what it is, a slow erosion of your sense of reality, a gaslighting so subtle it is administered not through words, but through the architecture of inconsistency itself. You are not crazy for wanting clarity. You are not needy for requiring definition. You are responding to biological signals that your rational mind has been trained to override. The situationship is not an accident of modern dating. It is its perfected form, the logical endpoint of a culture that has commodified intimacy while pathologizing the need for it. To understand why you are trapped here, you must understand the neurochemistry of intermittent reinforcement, the same mechanism that drives gambling addiction and keeps rats pressing levers until they die of exhaustion. When he texts unpredictably, when his attention comes in unpredictable bursts of warmth, followed by withdrawal, your brain releases dopamine not in proportion to the reward, but in anticipation of it. The uncertainty itself becomes the drug. You are not in love. You are in withdrawal, and the only person who can administer the next dose is the same person who controls the supply. Consider the specific microsignals that reveal his permanent unavailability, the patterns so subtle they bypass your conscious detection, but register in your nervous system as persistent unease. There is the temporal microsignal. He is always available for sex and sleep, but never for the mundane Tuesday afternoon when your car breaks down or your mother is hospitalized. His presence is contingent on his convenience, his desire, his schedule, never on your need. When you attempt to request presence during daylight hours, during crisis, during the unsexy maintenance of ordinary life, he responds with subtle punishment, withdrawal that lasts slightly longer than usual, a cooling in his next messages that trains you not to ask again. You learn to triage your own needs, to present only the palatable ones, to perform independence so thoroughly that you begin to believe your own performance. Then there is the narrative microsignal. He shares stories of his past, his wounds, his fears, with a vulnerability that feels like intimacy, but functions as currency. These disclosures are carefully calibrated, offered at moments when you are considering withdrawal, when your investment in the situationship is flagging. The timing is not accidental. Research on attachment manipulation reveals that strategic vulnerability, disclosure offered not for connection, but for retention, activates your caregiving circuitry and overrides your threat detection. You hear his story of childhood abandonment or previous betrayal, and your nervous system shifts from self-protection to other protection. You stay not because the situation has changed, but because you have been chemically hijacked into believing that understanding his pain will transform it, that your patience will heal what his history has broken. I need to know where this is going. I need consistency. I need you to show up not just when you want to, but when I need you to. And in your fantasy, he hears you, really hears you, and something shifts. He realizes what he stands to lose. He commits, finally and fully, to building something real. But this conversation, when you actually attempt it, unfolds differently. He says, "I am not ready for labels. I have been hurt before. I need to take this slow." Or he says, "I thought we were having fun. Why do you have to complicate things?" Or he says nothing at all, disappearing for 2 weeks, returning with a story of family emergency or work crisis that you cannot verify and do not want to question, because questioning feels like abandonment, like being the person who could not handle his complexity. The words he uses are less important than the pattern they reinforce. Every time you approach the boundary of clarity, he retreats behind ambiguity, and your attempt at definition is reframed as pressure, as neediness, as the very thing that will destroy the connection you are trying to save. This is not communication. This is training. You are being conditioned to associate your own needs with loss, to believe that the only way to maintain access to him is to abandon access to yourself. The psychological impact of prolonged situationship exposure is measurable and severe. Studies on ambiguous loss, the condition of grieving someone who is physically present but emotionally absent, show elevated rates of depression, anxiety, and somatic symptoms in women who remain in undefined romantic entanglements beyond 6 months. Your body is responding to a threat it cannot name or escape. The cortisol spikes of waiting, the dopamine crashes of disappointment, the chronic hypervigilance of monitoring his communication patterns, these create a physiological state similar to that of hostages or abused children, a learned helplessness that masquerades as choice. You tell yourself you are staying because you love him, because the connection is special, because no one else understands you this way. But love does not thrive in conditions of chronic uncertainty. What thrives there is trauma bonding, the attachment that forms not through safety but through shared survival of danger, the intense connection that develops when two people navigate repeated cycles of rupture and repair. The problem is that in situationships, the ruptures are engineered and the repairs are incomplete. You are not building a relationship. You are being trained to accept less than you need. The microsignals of permanent unavailability extend into the social domain. He keeps you separate from his life in ways that seem reasonable when isolated, but form a pattern when aggregated. You have never met his friends in any context that would allow them to witness you as his partner. You are introduced, if at all, by your first name only, or as a friend, or not introduced at all, merely present at the edges of his social world. When you suggest integration, meeting the people who matter to him, attending events together, he responds with practical obstacles that feel insurmountable. His friends are complicated. His family is dysfunctional. He is private about his personal life. These explanations play on your empathy, your desire to be the understanding woman who does not make demands, and they effectively quarantine you from the social verification that would make the situationship real. There is also the future microsignal, the way he speaks about time in ways that include you temporarily but never permanently. He makes plans for next month, but never for next year. He speaks of trips you might take together, but never of lives you might build. When you introduce future-oriented language, when you mention a wedding you will both attend next summer, or a lease that expires in 6 months, he responds with non-committal agreement that evaporates upon closer inspection. You realize, if you are honest, that you cannot name a single future event beyond 3 months that he has explicitly committed to attending with you. The most insidious microsignal is the one that mimics intimacy while preventing it. The depth without duration, the intensity without consistency. He knows your childhood wounds, your fears, your dreams, but he does not know your daily life. He has seen you cry, but not seen you struggle with ordinary tasks. He has held you through darkness, but never helped you navigate the practical logistics of living. This selective intimacy creates an illusion of knowing and being known, while preventing the accumulation of shared experience that builds real partnership. You feel close to him because you have shared secrets, but secrets are not the same as showing up. Vulnerability offered in bursts between withdrawals is not intimacy, it is bait. The neuroscience of attachment reveals why this pattern is so difficult to escape. Your brain has formed a bond based on the intense moments of connection, the peak experiences of closeness that punctuate the longer periods of absence. These peaks create memory traces that are stronger than the valleys, a phenomenon called peak-end rule that causes you to remember the relationship as more satisfying than its average experience actually was. You are not recalling the 3 days of silence or the canceled plans. You are recalling the 4 hours of intense conversation, the physical passion, the feeling of being finally understood. Your nervous system is chasing the peak, willing to endure increasing values in the hope of the next high. But the peaks are not accidents. They are part of the reinforcement schedule. When your investment flags, when you begin to pull away, he senses the shift and escalates. The messages become more frequent, the plans more concrete, the intimacy more intense, just enough to re-engage your attachment system before he withdraws again. This is not conscious manipulation in most cases. It is a pattern learned in his own attachment history, a way of relating that maintains connection without requiring vulnerability, that keeps partners close enough for comfort, but distant enough for safety. He is not evil, he is wounded, but his wounds are not your responsibility to heal, and your patience will not transform his pattern. The long-term emotional consequences of remaining in this dynamic are profound. You are learning that your needs are negotiable, that your clarity is threatening, that your desire for commitment is a character flaw to be overcome. These lessons do not stay contained in the situationship. They generalize to other relationships, to your relationship with yourself. You begin to doubt your own perceptions, to question whether your standards are too high, whether you are capable of the easygoing intimacy that modern dating seems to require. You are being trained in a particular kind of femininity, one that accepts crumbs with gratitude, that performs independence while dying inside, that translates abandonment into personal growth. The exit from this pattern requires not just leaving him, but leaving the part of you that believes this is the best you can do. It requires recognizing that the anxiety you feel is not passion, that the uncertainty is not freedom, that the intermittent rewards are not love. It requires grieving not just the loss of him, but the loss of the fantasy you have been maintaining, the possibility you have been protecting by refusing to see the reality. When you finally name the situationship for what it is, when you speak the words, "I deserve consistency, I deserve clarity, I deserve someone who chooses me fully, not just when it is convenient," you will face a final test. He will escalate the intermittent reinforcement, offering the most intense connection you have experienced, making promises that feel different from the previous ones, triggering your hope that this time will be different. This is the extinction burst, the pattern's final attempt at survival, and it is the most dangerous moment. If you relent, the pattern resets with renewed intensity, and your trust in your own perception is further eroded. If you hold firm, if you tolerate the discomfort of his withdrawal without chasing it, the bond begins to dissolve. The mystery that has structured your experience reveals itself now. The situationship was never about him. It was about your relationship with your own worth, your tolerance for ambiguity, your willingness to abandon yourself in pursuit of connection. He was simply the catalyst, the mirror showing you where you have not yet learned to demand what you deserve. The micro-signals you learn to detect in him are the same signals you must learn to detect in yourself. The moments when you abandon your own knowing in favor of someone else's narrative, when you trade clarity for the illusion of closeness. Your freedom lies not in finding the right person, but in becoming someone who would never again mistake intensity for intimacy, potential for presence, or hope for love. Write below the word that represents the clarity you are ready to claim, and let us witness your becoming, starting now.